Is the upcoming Android 15 update only here to take your data for its new AI hub? And what new features should we be excited about with the next version of Android? Let's talk about that. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and if I had $1 for every time I've heard AI this year, I might just be able to go out and buy the Alphabet Group. No, but seriously, it's absolutely everywhere at the moment. I'd be surprised if we didn't get AI ice cream at some point in the near future. Oh, and speaking of which, Google has decided to codename Android 15 Vanilla Ice Cream, following its loved alphabetical naming scheme. It's coming later this year, and I have the third beta installed on my device here. It comes with a few new features that might please some and might deter others, but the gist of it is that the update is both minor and huge, kind of at the same time. For instance, there are some pretty minor user experience improvements, like a lockable folder for apps that you want to keep privately secured from the rest of your phone. This folder can be unlocked with either a passcode or biometric authentication, so it'd be quite good for banking or messaging apps, for example. It's a fairly neat feature that I'm sure not heaps of people will choose to use, but it is there. Predictive back preview gives you a little hint of what you're going to switch to when holding the back swipe animation. This, on the surface of things, isn't the most useful inclusion that I can think of, but it does at least make the OS feel smarter and more intuitive, so is a small quality of life tweak. You ever scroll through socials at night only to be hit by an ungodly bright HDR video in your feed with no way to adjust the brightness? HDR headroom is a feature that app makers will have to take advantage of to impact us as users, but essentially what this does is allow for HDR content to have an upper brightness limit so it doesn't burn your eyeballs out when you come across an HDR image. As long as this actually gets implemented, it could be quite a useful, if not the most useful feature of this entire update, in my opinion. There are some small tweaks also coming to multitasking on larger displays like the Pixel Fold and Pixel Tablet, where you'll find apps to fill the screen better. The dock will also have an option to either be permanent or dynamic in its positioning, and better window management. Overall, a pretty minor update for the big screen Androids. You can now save split screen application pairs though, and this is available on both small and large screen phones. Annoyingly, a feature that got removed for beta version 3 that was in beta version 2 that I think was a really good idea was something called adaptive vibration. Essentially what this did was use the phone's sensors and microphones to detect what kind of surface you put your phone down on and then adjust the vibration strength based on that. So essentially if you put it down on a desk, it's gonna bring it down so it doesn't rattle the entire desk, and when you put it on something soft like a sofa, it would ramp the vibration motors up so you could definitely hear it. Unfortunately, we don't get that toggle in version 3 of the beta. Hopefully it comes back, or at least gets baked into the software and is automatically done. There are new screensaver options in the form of home controls, so that your phone is essentially, in docked or charging, a hub that you can use to control your smart home devices, which is kind of cool, I guess. And if you want to shoot better low light images with apps that aren't the native camera, then Android 15 should help you here as well, as it's offering those low light controls to third-party apps for better nighttime shooting. This should mean less grain, less smearing, and cleaner shots overall, so it can only really be a good thing. And Circle to Search, which we've had on the latest Pixels and Galaxy smartphones, will become available to more makes and models that aren't made by Google or Samsung. This is more useful than the privacy folder in my opinion. Just being able to use Circle to Search to find something maybe in a friend's photo of an item you really want to buy, it is actually quite a useful feature. But it does tie into Google's decision to ultimately make its Gemini AI suite the information hub of your smartphone, which is either super cool or something to completely avoid depending on which side of the fence you are on multimodal AI taking over your life. I know many of us don't trust these big companies with our data, and if that's you, the Gemini update, which is aiming to replace Google Assistant overall, isn't going to help matters. It's going to be able to take data in the form of text, speech, or images to answer any questions you give it, and is really a ChatGPT competitor that Google wants to bake directly into your smartphone. Now, despite the crazy amount of learning data it has had at its disposal, it definitely doesn't hit 100% all of the time, and it can spit out some absolute garbage answers at times, so it's by no means a finished article. Because its scope is so much larger than the basic Google Assistant, which might show you times, dates, and change settings, it has far more opportunity to go wrong, and is going to take heaps more development to make it more accurate. But when it does work, it can be pretty useful and has given me answers that are straight up quicker than me Googling it and finding the page, which I guess is what it's designed to do. The thing is, it needs to be more reliable if it wants to be truly useful, because when I ask Gemini for a piece of information, even if it gives me a confident answer, I'll always just go and check and make sure it's right, because I just can't trust it enough to give me a true piece of information. It doesn't take much to get caught out, and that kind of defeats the purpose of something that's meant to save you time. Maybe that's just the journalist in me, but I don't trust everything this thing spits out. Thankfully though, Google Gemini is opt-in versus opt-out at the moment, so at least for Android 15, you're going to have to go out of your way to enable it, which is the best way to handle things in my opinion, as it means you aren't currently forced to give it your data. And there are a couple of different flavors. There's the regular Gemini that lives on your phone, but uses the internet and Google's servers to provide you accurate answers. And this is totally free at the moment. The normal version is actually available right now on Android 14, where it can replace Google Assistant if you really want it to. Then there's Gemini Nano, which is coming to Pixels with Android 15, and that will offer essentially everything in-house. Offline functionality running locally on your phone, so no internet connection needed. Then finally, if you're really interested in AI and you want to hand Google money for the privilege of receiving more in-depth answers, then for a whopping $25 a month, Gemini Advanced will give you an improved model, 2 TB of included Google One storage, Gemini integration with Gmail and Docs, the G Suite, and you can even upload documents and create summaries and feedback. And that's all available right now for the web, being free for the first 2 months, no doubt to entice you to give it as much learning data as possible. But the whole Android 15 vanilla ice cream update does feel themed around Gemini as the centerpiece, with not much in the way of visual overhauls or major usability changes, making it a pretty incremental update as a whole if you're just not hyped on Google Gemini. And I would say for that reason it's one of the more divisive software versions in recent years, because I know people who would never go near a digital assistant and will avoid AI at all costs, but I also know people who lap it up and can't wait to get Gemini to control their smart home and their lives eventually. But it'll be interesting to see just how far they push Gemini to us, and frankly I'm more interested in UI and design changes that might perhaps come in Android 16. It's also worth noting you can opt in and install the beta 3 on your own smartphone right now, but proceed with caution as it's a beta and still in production, so you're going to run into bugs probably. And as with most software running in testing, it's not recommended you install it on your main device because something could go wrong and you don't want that to happen. I really want to hear what you have to say about Android 15 because it's a so-so update for me. And while you're down there, be sure to hit like and subscribe to never miss another piece of content from us. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.